And without further ado, I'm going to introduce the first speaker. We're going to have a very interesting range of topics today, how we actually link science to society, science to industry, science to politics. And the first one is Coral Martinez, is the director of the Cervantes Institute in Sydney. And she's going to be talking about science for everybody. So thank you very much, Coral.
Thank you so much to my friends from SRAP. And thank you so much for the sponsors, because it goes without saying that we wouldn't be here without them. Thank you so much to the public administration, to our ambassador, to our consul as well there. And thank you so much for the general public. I hope I can be able to explain how important it is that we all collaborate in this world to achieve our common goals. So I am, thank you very much for the introduction, the director from the Instituto Cervantes in Spain. How can I do this? There we go. This is just general questions, just to kind of like frame what I would like to talk about today. Let's just make these general questions like how we teach our children. What would the world be, no? In this imaginary point of view, what would happen if we each kept to ourselves? We will certainly achieve our basic goals, but we will certainly not achieve our common goals. So these are some examples. What would science be with no public budget? What would public budget be with no innovation projects? What would science and budget be with no communication to the general public? And this is very more or less what we've been talking about in these past talks. Clear examples are what we're living today, such as climate change policies. What would a climate change policy be if there were no communication strategy or no communication budget? We all know that is not cheap. What would COVID measures be if governments didn't have advisors from the scientific background? So just, we're in a university. I would just like to say just a general gist of a theory from a theoretical point of view, and then of course go to the practical point of view. How should we work, or how can we work? This of course is not my idea, but I borrow it from Henry and Louet, as if they were my closest friends, from the 90s. This is a triple helix model and the quadruple helix model of innovation. So the idea is, in the first example, the triple helix model of innovation teaches us the interactions between university, between business or industry and government, and how we can foster economic and social growth with these actors when they work together. A perfect example we all know is Silicon Valley. The government, the business, and university sat down together and said, how can we foster innovation? So they talked about giving out land, making loans accessible, and all that business core ideas came out through business, university, and industry, business, university, industry, and government. And that created what we know, the cluster of California, Silicon Valley. If we make it a bit more complex, because the world that we live in is complex, the quadruple helix model is, we could say, what we live in now. In this case, it recognizes four major actors in innovation: science, policy, industry, and of course, society. And this goes without saying, it's very important because we live in a communications era. In this case, research involves general public in development and innovation. A perfect example, we could even say, is the COVID, I talk in past, is the COVID crisis in most countries. A perfect example, of course, is Australia and Europe. So this is theoretical point of view. Now, practical point of view. What are we doing here? What am I doing here? Instituto Cervantes was created by the public government. It belongs to the public administration in Spain more than 30 years ago, and it is the official language corporation or industry that fosters culture of Spanish-speaking countries, as long as our common language, which is Spanish. So Instituto Cervantes is part of the public administration. We are the largest institution in the world dedicated to teaching Spanish. We have more than 87 centers in 44 countries. We just opened 2. For over more than 30 years, Instituto Cervantes has been constantly adapting to improving our work method to meet specific needs of institutions, of business, and of individuals for the education in Spanish and for the promotion of Spanish and Latin American culture. A perfect example, if I may say so, though I am rather biased, of the quadruple helix model. So what do we do in a collaborative world? Instituto Cervantes works in a collaborative network of 87 centers. We are not only collaborative among ourselves, which is mandatory, of course, for us, but we are also collaborative among with whom we work, with public and private entities that share our goals. And what is science, or why is science so important for us? Because it's part of our culture. And not only is it part of our core business from Instituto Cervantes to promote Spanish culture and our Spanish scientists, and that is why Instituto Cervantes has long been friends and colleagues with SRAP. And even though I have just been recently promoted, I honor this alliance, and I hope to keep it up during the next years and indefinitely. An example, just in these past 4 months, Instituto Cervantes of Sydney has worked hand in hand with our friends from SRAP, and we have managed to keep on this promotion of the Spanish science or Spanish scientists along with SRAP in conferences such as research in plastics in our oceans, clean hydrogen technology, looking at the stars live with our friend Angel, and our oceans conference on our oceans 500 years after the circumvallation of around the world. And to make this core business promoting our culture and promoting our science official, shall we say, we even signed the general director of Instituto Cervantes signed with the former Minister of Science and Innovation an agreement to promote our Spanish scientists and Spanish scientists abroad and Spanish science, Ciencia en Español, we call it. And this just means that these 2 general directors, ministers, high-level politicians sit down and sign an agreement, but automatically it binds 87 centers to keep on working with our scientists all in each and every country that we work with. So what can we do? What can be done in this complex helix quadruple model? There are quite a lot of existing programs that finance, and that goes with one of the first slides talking about public budget, and that is what we've been talking with Angel or our colleague Sergio in previous meetings. What can be done? What can be done? Where is the possibility of our heads sitting down together and getting the best possible outcome of our common goals? Well, first of all, there's the need usually for public budget, but we will also see that that is not always mandatory. So what can be done? There are existing programs that already are working. Some of them have more than 30 years of experience, and they can always we can always aim to get that. So one of our goals is to try to promote the existing budget. First of all, of course, there is public budget for cultural activities, and that is why our embassy has a department for cultural issues. Cervantes has a department. Of course, all Cervantes have to foster cultural issues, and among those, of course, science. There are also the possibility of sponsorship of public corporations, such as what our sponsors are doing here, right now. This is a perfect example. And of course, other examples of public budget, such as, first of all, strategic associations in education and research in Europe. This has been ongoing for more than 30 years. There's more than 25 billion euros in a 7-year program of these strategic associations, which basically means that business, university, and government or politics or public administration put their heads together and try to come up with the future, in this case, education system in university, education degrees, and what the world needs now, and that is constantly evolving. Of course, there are other examples, such as the public budget for European universities, one of the key projects in Europe, which aims to create alliances, public alliances among universities in order to foster mobility along all the universities, public universities that are part of that alliance. It goes without saying that those alliances are not only European, and the richness is to broaden and have other partners. And there's an important budget for that, 280 million euros in this case for a three-year timeframe. And other examples, which I'm sure you will know, public budget for Europe Horizon, public budget for women innovators, European Research Night, European Innovation Days, along with international mobilities that can be fostered, and we can work with that from Australia to Spain and from Spain to Australia. This is just an example. There are only 300 mobilities from these two countries, Spain and Australia, in the past 2-3 years, pre-COVID, please. This right now it's not. But Spain has more than 86,000 mobilities. So as you can see, there is still a lot that we can do. And lastly, what can be done without budget? This is also possible. Please, we need volunteers to promote science among our children when we give those Spanish classes, to promote Spanish cultural events. It's for science, not only in Spanish, but also, of course, in English, but with our colleagues. And we can actively promote activities, not only online, like the ones I mentioned before, but of course, we would love to go on living face-to-face if COVID allows us. And forums, of course, such as today, and online meetings, Zooms, to put together our heads and try to achieve our common goals. What can be done? These are examples that I've mentioned before, and these are the links just to look at the information. It's all there. It's online on our website. The General Cervantes from Madrid, and of course the Sydney Cervantes office, and all our data and our contacts are there. Please contact us, and we can sit down and chat and see how we can achieve together our common goals. These are our contact details, and we are also physically in Sydney and CBD, Sussex Street. Please contact us, because I truly think that if we sit down together and chat with maybe a cup of coffee, we can achieve our common goals of dissemination of our scientists without public, no fake news, hopefully, and try to create a common atmosphere of knowledge, or at least the thirst for that knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Coral. Thank you for keeping the time, and also for that fantastic bottomed view. So we have time for questions now.
Thank you for the presentation. That was great. I have one question. So in all of the events that we have done in the last year, like you have done plenty of them, they have been over Zoom, most of them, yeah? So do you feel that it's like, because there are two things. So in one hand, Zoom and online events in general allow us to have a forum like today, where we have people presenting from Melbourne, from other cities, or even other countries at the same time. The blended approach is very good. But and so that is very empowering in terms of economics, and also enables people to participate. However, there is what is called the Zoom fatigue. Yes. What do you think the Zoom fatigue, is it going to play a role in the future? Are we going to have more blended events, or are we going to just go back to face-to-face only?
Thank you so much for your question. Sorry, yeah, thank you. This is a general idea that we're working on Instituto Cervantes. We're 87 centers, so each and every one has a specific way to go, depending on what the situation is, because the situation copy-wise is very different. From our point of view, we truly think we have to go back face-to-face. Nevertheless, we do have a lot of people that have been with us online for the past year and a half. And because of where they are, it's much more difficult for them to come. I'm not only talking about when Australia is huge, but we also have a lot of people from New Zealand, and these kind of talks, especially those talks that we had with the strap that were in the afternoon, there were people from each and every corner of the world. I truly think that to make it inclusive, we have to keep doing online events or hybrid streaming events, but we also, I think, should go back face to face. That's why I put the coffee and sit down and chat, because I think the face to face always allows us to get closer in another way. It's not only about culture and dissemination of science, we also do that with our language classes. There are people that are really high and up and running with Zoom, but there are a lot of people that want to go back to see their teacher face to face. There is a certain, up to a certain place, people are a bit exhausted with Zoom, but I see it as an opportunity for those that would like to keep on that, doing that. But we would like to do both, to be honest. My teachers are not thrilled with that idea, but I think it's the best way to go. It's a lot of work.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for a very clear message. And I, as an educator, I totally agree with, and you cannot wait until see my pupils face to face.